Hi, everybody. Welcome. I'm just doing another class for this week. This is just a recording today and sort of marks the final, I guess, class of our course, a very, very brief course just on issues around emptiness, concept of emptiness in Buddhism, in parts of Shantideva's chapter of on emptiness, on wisdom in Guide to a Bodhisattva's Way of Life, chapter 9. So we're just finishing with today with just some final sort of sum up notes, and then the following class will just be a question, answer, and review. Okay, so thanks very much for coming, and we'll just get started here by reciting the Heart Sutra. Homage to the perfection of wisdom, the Blessed Mother. Thus I have heard at one time the Blessed One was dwelling in Rajgir in Masvaltra's mountain, together with a great assembly of monks and a great assembly of bodhisattvas. That time the Blessed One was absorbed in the concentration of countless aspects of phenomena called profound illumination. That time also, Superior Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the Great Being, was looking perfectly at the practice of profound perfection of wisdom, looking perfectly at the five aggregates being empty of inherent existence. Then through the power of Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to Superior Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the Great Being, how should a son of the lineage train who wishes to engage in the practice of profound perfection of wisdom? Thus he spoke, and Superior Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the Great Being, replied to Venerable Shariputra as follows. Shariputra, whatever son or daughter the lineage wishes to engage in the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom should look perfectly like this. Subsequently, looking perfectly and correctly also the five aggregates being empty of inherent existence. Form is emptiness, form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form, and form is also not other than emptiness. Likewise, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, like this, all phenomena are emptiness, having no characteristics, are not produced and do not cease. They have no defilement, no separation from defilement. They have no decrease and no increase. Therefore, in Shariputra, in emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factors, no consciousness. There is no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mentality, no form, no sound, no smell, no taste, no tactile object, no phenomenon. There is no eye element, so forth, up to no mentality element, also up to no element of mental consciousness. There's no there is no ignorance and no exhaustion of ignorance, and so forth, up to no aging and no exhaustion of aging again. Likewise, there's no suffering, origin, cessation, or path, no exalted awareness, no attainment, also no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, because there's no attainment, bodhisattvas rely upon and abide in the perfection of wisdom. Their minds have no obstructions and no fear. Passing utterly beyond perversity, they attain the final nirvana. Also, all Buddhas died perfectly in the three times, having relied upon the perfection of wisdom, became manifest complete Buddhas in a state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, unsurpassed mantra, the equal and unequal mantra, the mantra that clearly pacifies all suffering, since it's not false, should be known as the truth. Mantra of perfection of wisdom is proclaimed, Tayatam Gata Gata Paragata Parasam Gati Buddhi Soha. Shariputra Bodhisattva, great being, should train the profound perfection of wisdom like this. Then the Blessed One arose from the concentration and said to Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the great being, that he'd spoken well. Good, good, O son of the lineage, just like that. Since it's like that, just as you have revealed, in that way the profound perfection of wisdom should be practiced, and the Tathagatas will also rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, Venerable Shariputra, the spirit of Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the great being, and the entire circle of disciples, as well as worldly beings, gods, humans, demigods, and spirits, were delighted and highly praised what had been spoken by the Blessed One. So I'm just going to just do a few Gate mantras here. Prashaparamita mantra. Om Gate Gate Para Gate Para Samgate Bodhi Soham. Om Gate Gate Para Gate Parasamgate Bodhi Soham. Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhi Soham. Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhi Soham. Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhi Soham. Om Gate, Gate, Para, Gate, Para, Samgate, Bodhi, Soham. Om Gate, Gate, Para, Gate, Para, Samgate, Bodhi, Soham. Okay, so we'll just do the 9-point breathing here just for a moment. Okay, and first three breaths in through your left nostril, out through your right, getting rid of our attachment to the left channel. Switching it over to 3 breaths through your inhalations through your right nostril, going through the right channel and out through the left channel and through your left nostril, getting rid of anger, reactivity, and so forth. And finally, 3 breaths through both nostrils. And we can just hold the final inhalation and just hold it at our navel. And just feel that the mind and the prana and breath all mix together there before we release and exhale. Okay, we can just visualize ourselves just for prayer practice here, seated in a wide open space. We can feel that the ground is like a lapis lazuli, beautiful, smooth, warm to the touch, comfortable to sit on. And above us are all around us, I should say, are all sentient beings of the 6 realms of psychic existence or Sound Zero. You can just feel that our mothers on our left, fathers on our right, people we love the most behind us as support, people we like the least or have issues with in front of us as objects of prayer and meditation. Moving up from there, from all the people we know in our life to starting to be just vast majority of people we don't know. People from all over the world, different countries and backgrounds without exception. Feel animals from the animal realm are here. Just all the vast, innumerable and different kinds of ecosystems. All beings from the spirit world are here as well, from all the different planes, astral, elemental, ethereal planes, and so forth. It's complex and as varied as the animal realm. Celestial beings, got different demigods and 3 god realms. All those beings are here too. And vast majority of sentient beings, being beings in lower rebirth, are here as well. Hungry ghost and elm beings. So we're all here together. And let's just visualize we're all sitting here together like one big sort of sentient being family. And then in the sky in front of us and above us, we can visualize Tashita Pure Land. Beautiful Ganden Pure Land, land of bliss, joy, of innumerable angels, so to speak, hundreds of deities, land of joy, countless angels, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of this Pure Land of the universal Buddhas, Pure Land of Buddha Manjushri. So we just feel so beautiful with mountains and valleys and forests and lakes and so forth. And the central place we're visualizing has all sort of like the town with all the temples and monastic universities and so forth around here, and shrines. So you can just feel all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, Dakas and Bikinis, gods and goddesses, monks and nuns, and everybody's here. You can feel that just everybody's here meditating and studying and so forth. And the central figure is sort of like the main cathedral. Doors are open. We look in and see the figure of the fifth universal Buddha, Buddha of loving kindness, Buddha Maitreya, who's soon to descend into this our world to teach Dharma. And he's seated on a throne, just like a person sitting in a chair, about to stand up and sort of stand up, walk over, come down into our world. And he's golden colored with the crown, beautiful silks and so forth. He's holding his hands in the mudra of turning the wheel of Dharma, two white lotuses around the ear with a Dharma chakra and a golden initiation vase. Very, very beautiful. And on his right or our left, founder of the old Tsongkhapa tradition of Tibetan Buddhism, wonderful Indian monk, South Asian monk, Atisha Dipankar Vajana, seated in lotus position, hands in mudra turn the wheel of Dharma, and he's wearing 3 robes of a monk and yellow pennant's hat. He's got a little golden stupa with him as well as Dharma texts and so forth. And on the other side, our right, or Maitreya's left, is the founder of the new Kadampa tradition, showing sort of the continuity of traditions here from Atisha to Tsongkhapa and to all the Dalai Lamas, Panchen Lamas, and to our teachers of today, it's life. So Tsongkhapa has 3 robes of monk, yellow pennant's hat, hands in return the wheel of Dharma mudra here, to blossoming lotuses around their ears with a flaming sword and a Prajnaparamita text. So they're in the sort of main sort of building or temple there. Let's see. Maitreya's heart, there's a beautiful golden Buddhist eternal knot symbol that sort of transforms into a cloud, sort of a group, a cluster of fresh clouds. They say it's kind of like, well, Tibetan analogy is white curd, but we could say whipping cream, or something like that. Beautiful, fluffy, and white. And on it, again, is Tsongkhapa, founder of our Buddha tradition, 1400s, with his 2 heart students, Chopa Gyatso and Kyujje. So Tsongkhapa is in his regular form, in terms of Dharma mudra, 3 robes of a monk, yellow pennant's hat, and 2 lotuses. And on either side, Chopa Gyatso, our left, his right, and Kyujje, our right, his left, are dressed like monks with yellow pennant's hat. And they're just in the teaching mudra, just with their right hand with its finger touching them. And left hand's meditation mudra, holding a Dharma text. So looking at Tsongkhapa, at his crown, first of all, is the Buddha of Sweet Buddha, showing that he's the emanation of Buddha of wisdom, Buddha of compassion, and Buddha of power, Manjushri, Avalokiteshvara, Vajrapani, respectively. So Buddha of wisdom, Manjushri, that is his crown. Golden colored body, crown made out of energy, holding a flaming sword above his head. His right hand, left hand, 3 mudra, 3 jewels mudra of his heart, holding a white lotus with the Prajnaparamita text on his in lotus position. Now, at his heart, so at Manjushi's heart is Buddha Shakyamuni's higher Sambhogakaya, sort of angelic form, Conqueror Vajradhara. So you can visualize him solo, beautiful sapphire blue body in lotus position. His hands are crossed like this. He's wearing a crown. He's got a bell in his left hand and a dorje or Vajra scepter in his right. Beautiful blue hum letter, H-U-M, at his heart as well, meaning rainbow light. At Tsongkhapa's throat now. So Manjushi's on a moon disc, sorry, this Avalokiteshvara, Buddha of compassion, throat's on a red lotus. And he is sort of showing that Tsongkhapa is again an emanation, but of compassion as well. And he has beautiful white body, white energy body with 4 arms in lotus position, wearing a crown, beautiful jewelry and so forth, and a little antelope skin, kind of like a little cardigan or a little shawl. In his neck, showing gentleness. Also, that's kind of like a long life symbol as well, long life deer. And with his first two hands, he's holding a jeweled lotus, multicolored lotus. And the other two hands, a white lotus. So this is like a multicolored jewel, I should say. I don't know if I said anyway, multicolored jewel at his heart, representing bodhicitta. And yeah, second left hand holds a white lotus, second right hand, a crystal mala. And then again, at Avalokiteshvara's heart, again is Conqueror Vajradhara, another Conqueror Vajradhara with the moonlight at his heart. And then finally, at his Tsongkhapa's heart on a sun disk is Buddha Vajrapani, Buddha of power. So he's sort of right leg bent, left extended here. He's holding up to the sky with his left right hand. Sorry, right. So right bent, left extended. Yeah. So holding up the right in the threatening mudra, a dorje, beautiful golden dorje. And threatening with his left inside his heart, holding a lasso just to sort of tie up and bind, and it's like subduing power action there. And he's blue-black energy body, crown, and on fire. He's a little tiger skin loincloth and has 5 colored snakes on him as well, kind of like little necklaces. And at his heart again is Conqueror Vajradhara, for whom it is heart. Now looking at Jabagyaso, beautiful old monk, and he's seen as an emanation of compassion, Avalokiteshvara. So we visualize at his heart, Avalokiteshvara, again formed Avalokiteshvara with Conqueror Vajradhara at his heart and whom at his heart. And Kejupji looks kind of fierce, staring straight at you, and he's considered an emanation of Buddha power, Vajrapani. So we visualize Buddha Vajrapani at his heart on a sun disk. Again, Conqueror Vajradhara at Vajrapani's heart, and Conqueror Vajradhara has a whom letter at his heart as well. Okay, taking refuge, Sangye Chud, So Ke Chona La, Janju Baru Dagi Kyab Suchi, Dagi Jin So Gi Pe Sonam Ki, Drola Panchi Hir Sangye Dru Parsho, Sangye Chudang So Ke Chonam La, Janju Baru Dagi Kyab Suchi, Dagi Jin So Gi Pe Sonam Ki, Drola Panchi Hir Sangye Dru Parsho, Sangye Chudang So Ke Chonam La, Janshu Bardu Dagi Kyab Suchi, Dagi Jin So Gi Pe Sonam Ki, Drola Panchi Hir Sangye Dru Parsho. I take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha to attain enlightenment by the merit accumulated from practicing generosity of the perfections. May I attain enlightenment and the benefit of all sentient beings. General the 4 measurables of love, compassion, joy, and equanimity. May all beings have happiness in its causes. May all beings be free from suffering in its causes. May all beings constantly dwell in joy, transcending sorrow. May all beings dwell in equal love for both those close and distant. May all beings have happiness in its causes. May all beings be free of suffering in its causes. May all beings constantly dwell in joy, transcending sorrow. May all beings dwell in equal love for both those close and distant. May all beings have happiness in its causes. May all beings be free of suffering in its causes. May all beings constantly dwell in joy, transcending sorrow. Around the heart of the protector, the hundreds of deities of joyful land, which is to the peak of the clouds, like a cluster of fresh white curtain. All-knowing Losandrapa, King of the Dharma, please come to this place together with the 2 chief disciples. In the space before me, in a lion throne, lotus and moon, the venerable Buddha smile of delight. Supreme field of merit, my mind of faith, please remain for 100 aeons to spread the teaching. So this invocation, you just feel that the clouds start to bring Tsongkhapa, Japa Kejupchiknostas, like I would say, like rolling on a yoga mat. It starts to unfurl and come closer. So we, sentient beings here, see, we can just feel that it's right above and in front of us, these 3 lamas. And then so we look to the side here, we sort of look awry, we can see the clouds going all the way up to to sheet of Pure Land, kind of like a rainbow bridge, and right into the heart of Buddha Maitreya, the future Buddha. So these three lamas are very close to us now. Your minds of wisdom, realizing the full extent of objects of knowledge. Your eloquent speech is the ear organ of the fortunate. Your beautiful bodies are ablaze with the glory of renown. I prostrate to you and to see, to hear, to remember so meaningful. Pleasing water offerings, various flowers, sweet-smelling incense, light, scented water, and so forth. A vast cloud of offerings will set out and imagine and offer to you supreme field of merit. Whatever non-virtues of body, speech, and mind have accumulated since time without beginning, especially transgressions of my three vows, with great remorse I declare each one from the depths of my heart. In this degenerate age, you strive for much learning and accomplishment, abandoning worldly concerns, you made your leisure and endowment meaningful. Protector from the very depths of my heart, I rejoice in the great work of your deeds. From the billowing clouds of wisdom and compassion, the space of your enlightened minds, venerable and holy gurus, please send down a rain of vast and profound dharma appropriate disciples of this world. May your Vasha body, created from the purity of clear light, free the rising setting of cyclic existence, but visible only to the ordinary viewer, and only in its unsolved visible form, stay on unchanging without waiting until samsara ends. Through the virtues I've accumulated here, my teachings and all living beings receive every benefit, especially in the essence of the teaching of Lama J. Tsongkhapa shine forever. Holding a beautiful purified universe with a mandala at our hearts here. Mount Meru, 4 continents, 8 subcontinents, 8 knowledge offering goddesses, all the precious substances and objects of a Chakravartin ruler, and all beautiful flowers and beautiful things we're offering up. This mandala, built on a base resplendent with flowers, saffron, water, and incense, adorned with Mount Meru, the 4 lands, sun, and moon. By offering this pure mandala to the assembly of Buddhas here before me, may all living beings receive pure happiness and pure lands. The objects of my desire, aversion, ignorance, enemy, friend, enemy, and stranger, my body and all possessions. These I offer without claim for your enjoyment. Please bless me and all living beings to release from the 3 poisonous minds. I send forth this jewel mandala to the precious gurus. Om and Amen. From that, just blessing energies coming down. So again, blessing Jinlap, mind transformation. It's kind of like an energy boost, or they call it like powering up nowadays, or a level up like in a video game. You're going, I always like sort of more Spinozist or Nietzschean readings to things myself. So I always say it's like you're going from a reactive to an affirmative state of mind, a state of living. So the sort of selfish, constricted, sort of negative, kind of almost vengeful kind of attitude, like where you're small and angry at things like this, or attached and hung up and can't let go of things. So no power, no creativity in your life, no joy in your life. You're all sort of stuck and closed, and then all of a sudden you start to open up like a flower and be joyous and affirmative and love things for being what they are, and having all the power, connection, and openness and creativity that comes with that. And from Tibetan Buddhists, we say that just Buddha is shining on us. All these holy beings are sort of awakening that power within us. So it is kind of like sun shining down on the flower that's allowed to bloom because of that. So same thing, we're going to visualize beautiful golden lights going out from the hearts of the 3 gurus to all sentient beings. I like sunlight, blessing everybody. And for us, 3 tubes of light, little needles made out of energy, come to the crown of our head. They're coming from the heart. So just from the center of the Hum letter at the Vajradhara, at the sort of hearts of our gurus here. And golden nectars inside. Beautiful. So it's like sort of if you're pouring through a little straw, you have a little bottle, like a sippy cup or something with a straw on it, and you're putting in mango juice or something in a beautiful clear cup, glass cup. Same thing here with us. We're filling up with all this golden energy. And again, just for the 7 wisdoms, just helping us have, things like profound, clear, quick wisdom to teach Dharma and debate and so forth, all within us in little shiny little sparkles of energy. These little sparkles, when you look closer to them, are like little Buddha Maitreyas, Shakyamuni Buddhas, little Manjushri Buddhas, the Manjushri mantra, D syllable, Manjushri's C syllable there, little wheels of swords, like little ninja stars spinning around in there, and dharma texts and flaming swords as well. As we do the mantra of Tsongkhapa, mixing Mig me se wei ter chen chen rei zi. Ri me ken pe wang po jam pan. Du pung ma lu chom se sang wei dan. Gan chen ke pe sung ken song ka pan. O sang tra pe sha bla so wan den. Mig me se wei ter chen chen rei zi. Pri me ken pe wang po cham bao yan. Du pung ma lu jom se sang wei dan. Dan chen ke pe sung ken song kan pan. Lo san ra pe sha bla so wan din. Mig me se wei ter chen chen rei zi. Pri me ken pe wang po jam bao yan. Du pung ma lu chom se sang wei dan. Gan chen ke pe sung ken song kan pan. Lo san tra pe sha la so wa den. So beautiful golden light and energy is filling us all up. And now just change the colors here. Let's just feel that three colors, red, white, and blue, just as kind of like the French or American flag here, or coming down. Just, I shouldn't use like the countries or politics here, but just, the like primary colors almost coming down. Three main colors here, just beautiful white color, blue, and red. Into our bodies, speech, and mind. Just feel that just in particular, just going into our three chakras here. White in our crown, into our throat, and blue in our heart. And for us as well, purifying our body, speech, and mind. The 10 non-virtues in particular. Now just change the color one more time. So golden energy coming from Manjushri at top of Tsongkhapa's crown into our crown, golden energy. Red light from Ramakateshvara's heart, and from Tsongkhapa's throat into our throat, and then Vajrapani at Tsongkhapa's heart. Blue light comes down into our heart from his heart there. So just feel that all the wisdom, all the compassion, and all the power of the Buddhas is going directly into us now. And just all this energy is going out to all sin around us as well. And with this, we can just feel for the dissolution here. We'll just recite the verses first, and then we'll do the dissolution and the visualization. Glorious and precious root Guru, please come and lotus and moon seat on my crown. In great kindness, please remain with me. Please bestow upon me the blessings of your body, speech, and mind. Glorious precious root Guru, please ascend to the lotus and moon seat in my heart, and in a great kindness, please remain with me. Please grant me the calm and supreme realizations. Glorious precious root Guru, please remain in the lotus and moon seat in my heart. In great kindness, please remain with me. Please remain until I achieve the essence of enlightenment. Okay, with that, we can just visualize sheet of Pure Land starts to melt in the golden light. The whole beautiful land, sort of the temples and buildings and so forth become golden, sort of almost like sunlight dissolve into Buddha Maitreya. Buddha Maitreya now like a big golden sun sort of melts, becomes sort of ball of light and sort of comes towards Tsongkhapa, sort of sucking up, dissolving all the clouds, melts into him. And we can feel light at the heart of the blue light starts to come, getting bigger and bigger, and dissolves into Vajradhara's heart at the center of the two heart students, Japa and Kijute. And sort of becomes ball of light, sort of starts to melt everything, just with the beautiful power blue light from Vajradhara, melts them, and these become ball blue light, and sort of goes into Tsongkhapa. And the same thing here with Tsongkhapa, we can just feel the various Buddhas start to melt into light for him. So just sort of dissolving into him. So just Manjushri with little Vajradhara. So sort of more blue light from Vajradhara melts everything to his crown. Vajradhara melts all the Avalokiteshvara into his throat. And Vajrapani's heart melts Vajrapani into Tsongkhapa's heart. And then Tsongkhapa himself starts to melt into just sort of shrinking. I don't say melt because it's like he's still the same, but he just gets really, really small. So he just sort of miniaturizes there, just like a little shrine here. Anyway, I'm not going to reach up and show you, but I have those little, you get them at sometimes in South Asian stores that sell Dharma stuff, the little statues of Buddhas are about this big little metal ones that are really sweet. I don't know if they're iron or whatever, and they're cast, but they're about this big. So you can just feel that Tsongkhapa is just like this big, just over our crown now, facing the same direction. Meanwhile, inside our body, just sort of hollow, we have at our heart, the size of a quarter, a little white petaled lotus. It's flat, just the petals are open like this, and on it is a white moon disc as well. This is at the center of our central channel. Going up. The central channel is just like, sort of a bigger straw in this visualization. And when we say this, Tsongkhapa enters our crown chakra and slowly descends, just like an elevator going down until it comes to the center of the lotus, just the moon disc in the center of the lotus. And just with the lotus sort of closes up, like a flower closing up at night. Beautiful white lotus. Just a little bulb in our heart. And now it's sealed with sort of like two strings, like tying it. First one is the Manjushri mantra going made out of sort of orangey gold energy. Turning clockwise, Amarapatsana-adi, and below it, Tsongkhapa's mantra, Amar Guru Vajradhara Samadakruti Siddhi Hum, going counterclockwise. And this is just becoming one with our heart, our mind and his mind, mind of three Buddhas of power, wisdom, and compassion becoming one with us. Okay, so thank you very much. That's great. And now just carrying on with some more teachings today, just finishing up some of these ideas in Shantideva's chapter commentary from the Asian Classics Institute class, number 11, I believe here. Okay, so just some notes I took, just sort of at the very end here of the course, sort of a short course of only this, I guess maybe what the fourth class or so. Just again, breaking down the idea of what an object is. anyway, this is even in Western philosophy, my favorite philosopher, Ludwig Wittgenstein, this is a whole thing of what he calls with the private language argument, and his sort of understanding of intentionality is great. It's what they call attack on objects of consciousness, which is sort of getting rid of an idea, I guess you could say, that there's some kind of Platonic, self-subsisting, inherently existing object of your mind, right? There's anyway, it's a very complicated argument for that, but it's very good. If you guys are into that kind of stuff, I direct your attention towards that. But just my notes here, just looking at the questions, where is the object? So again, what does it mean to actually have an object of mind according to the Prasangika system? So like I said, what you can in the Chittamandaran system, like we were talking about last week, mind and its objects arise from a seed, karmic seed, in storehouse consciousness, the laya vijnana, or kushi in Tibetan. And these, because the definition of mind is object possessor, so it's the idea that you can't have a mind without an object, can't have an object without a mind. And these things are dependently related, so dependent origination. They're impermanent and changing, but at the same time, they do exist sort of in a conventional way. They perform a function. They truly exist, as without sounding too much of a kind of like, sort of a self-contradiction here, but they're dependently arisen, but nevertheless, they substantially exist as dependently arisen things. So what doesn't exist is your mind's, in any real way, you could say, is your mind's interpretation of the object, is the mind's judgment of your object, is the sort of fantasy or mediation overlay that you have on the object. Now, from a Prasangika point of view, all we have are those things on objects. We basically have labels and bases. We have things being put together and created in and through the naming or conceptualization process itself, right? So Dakshi in Tibetan are raw data. The raw data, the stuff you take in with your senses and call, Geshe Michael's famous example, the pen. You could have the glasses being one, or I always use my watch. Let's just say, using his example, of course, the famous pen. So the stuff you take in your senses and call pen, the basis of your thoughts. So that's the raw data, it's the basis of your thoughts. Good way to meditate on emptiness is to practice applying, removing an object's identity with your mind and see the raw sensory data. Only without conceptualizing its identity, then applying the identity to the data. So that's a little, I mean, writing my notes here, it's a little terse. But if you look at traditional phenomenology in a lot of Edmund Husserl's work, he called that free, if I remember correctly, from over 30 years ago in grad school. But this idea of what they call free variation. Like if you want to know the sort of the essence or sort of the logical structure of an object, take away its qualities one by one until it disappears, right? In other words, like I've got a dorje. When does this dorje stop becoming a dorje? Well, is it, this is, I guess, probably brass or bronze, I guess. I'm not a jeweler, but let's say I think it's okay. So let's say it's bronze. Do I take the color? Is it still a dorje? Yeah, because it could be black or red or something. Can I take, let's say it's feeling, it's cold, the cold metal. Well, I can have it hot. So it's not that's still a dorje. What can I take away that stops it from being a dorje? Okay, let's say the shape, or let's say the size. Oh, I can have small dorjes. You see where this is going, right? But let's say the shape. What can I stop taking away? Like, where does it stop? Where does the object actually disappear as a dorje? Like let's say I can take off the prongs. Well, technically, there's in Shingon Buddhism in Japan, there's a single prong dorje. I actually have one in my shrine cabinet there from Japan, where it's just the center door part, the center prong. Well, then it's still a dorje. But the point is, the moment that disappears, kind of like the object disappears. So that's interesting. You sort of see how your mind is creating things out of data. So you can do the same thing where you can start seeing how your mind creates with a label and base. So I'm using Husserl as a lot of example for this, but he always said this is when judgment and intuition come together to be one. So in other words, my teacher always had the example: you have a cat, you have a black cat at home, you go to work at the office, and you come home. So the cat has a cat door that he comes in and out during the day. So it's it's dark when you get home. Let's say wintertime in Toronto or something, 5 o'clock, everything's kind of dark. So you're going up to your I always have an image of my grandmother's house in Scarborough in Toronto because her cat was just always in the tree outside the front door, the cat door. So anyway, I had this. So let's say you're going in and there's, it's windy in the tree. Let's say it's the pines moving around. There's some shadows and you think, oh, that's my black cat, whatever, black cat, Kiki from Kiki's Delivery Service. Or I'm making a joke. So, Kiki, my black cat. Oh, she must be out. I'll bring her into the house. So it looks like there's shadows moving and stuff. So again, there's these kind of data where you have like, okay, black shadow, some degree of movement. There seems to be almost like a cat-like shape. So I go down and say, hey, Kiki, I'll let you in. And as I reach out, so in other words, there's a bit of an intuition going there. There's data that's being supplied to you, but the issue is my judgment correct? My mind's putting out the judgment of the image of my cat, and if they come together, if the evidence is there, then I have an object, my cat Kiki. But here, as I go underneath the tree, I see it's just a trick of the lights, the street light, the way the wind is, the way the tree is. There's no cat, and it's like, so they call that kind of like an empty judgment or whatever. Like, in other words, the data hasn't fulfilled my judgment. And so you can have this where you can have in phenomenology where you have an empty judgment like that, or you can have data without a judgment, in the sense that you don't know what something is. Like some things, I'm driving towards something and there's over the horizon, is that a fire? Is that, what is that? There's all sort of colors of what, I don't know what that is. It doesn't make sense to me. Then I get closer and then I can start making a judgment. Evidence is fulfilled, blah, blah, blah. So you can do these kinds of things with your perception. And again, all of this kind of stuff, like I have a little note here, the sum of all parts do not make the object. The concept which your mind applies to the parts is what makes the object. Well, you can see this. What makes you think, okay, so I'll get to this part in a sec. So you can do all this. And again, as I always like to say, it's easy for me to try and make this one of these boring sort of philosophy seminars here. But the take-home thing with all of this stuff is that your mind is creating reality. Reality isn't straight up the way it is independent of your mind. Things are just labels and bases. Things are just concepts. Things are just the way you think and talk about them. When we can look at that sort of collectively on a social level and individually on an existential level, your likes, dislikes, your own judgments, the world that you're creating. Now, why is that important? Well, we all agree with that, but like some disavowed judgment on your day-to-day basis, reality doesn't look like this. It doesn't look like it's coming just from your mind. It doesn't look like you're responsible for it. It looks as it's coming at you and being imposed on you without your control and without any kind of relationship to yourself. And that's what ignorance is. That's precisely what we're trying to overturn here. So what makes you think of the raw data in a certain way is your past mental imprints or karma. By changing your mental imprints to change how you interpret and perceive the raw data, you can perceive bliss or purity or pure lands instead of true sufferings of samsara. This is the point of Buddhism I have written there. Like we said in our courses, previous courses on karma and Dhammakaya Sutra, the judgment, the label, the concept, that's the seed or the past karma ripening, that's organizing that data or putting a label on it. That's the most important thing, is that what karma is a change in your mind, is a change in your judgment. It's how things, like I famously use Wittgenstein example, the duck rabbit, it's how things appear to you as something. That's what karma is. And that's why if you're a super pure person, only pure things are coming at you. You're a super impure, negative, selfish, angry person, only negative things are coming at you. In other words, your judgments are always negative. And you can see this like when you're in a bad mood, speaking for myself, how you see things is always negative. You see things, let's say if you're angry, you see things as a threat. Let's say if you're attached or whatever, you see things as maybe you can't get past them, or things seem sticky to you, or whatever. The point is how the world appears as it is in a certain way is according to your karma. It's like a filter that you put through this. So there's that old Tibetan expression: an angry man can't enjoy his soup. Like I know, you're in a bad mood, and even you go with dinner with your mom or your friends, and it's like even the soup, you go for ramen soup and even kind of tastes crappy. Like you can't taste it because you're so mad or whatever, right? Or someone gives you a present, you're not even happy when you get the present, and things always look negative. Like I know this just, like let's say you're angry and you get paranoid. The way you perceive the world is in a paranoid way, where everyone's out to get you, everyone's laughing at you, everyone's in on it, whatever. So how reality is appearing to you, it's getting structured that certain way according to your deluded mind. Okay, so just a collection of terms here. Ming, or name, concept, the word name there in Tibetan, which means name and concept. Mental image, you impute on the stuff you take in with your senses, the mental construct your mind imposes on the raw data. Tani, or term, is the name, term, concept, mental picture imposed on the data, forced on you by your past mental imprints or karma. Dokje, mind imposed, or the mind that thinks of the raw data in a particular way, that imposes the concept or identity onto the data. Or takchi, product or result, the object you get in the end, or the one that you experience after you impose your mental image upon the data or concept on the data. So the question, this is the take-home question: where and which of these places does the pen exist, or the object exist? Where is the object? So the object is a product at the end day, but there isn't any inherent thing along the way that you can point to as being the object, right? Anyway, I could go on and on. I'm looking at the time here. I got another 15 minutes, so I don't want to beleaguer the point. We've talked about this a lot of times before, but you can go home and think a lot about this. Where is the object? How do I create things? Where is an intentional object? If even I can talk about it in different ways. Like let's say, it's the classic thing where I have a glass of water. A hungry ghost sees it as pus or blood or something gross. I see it as water. A god sees it as nectar. Well, who's right? Everyone's right and everyone's wrong at the same time. Where is the object? Where's the glass of water? What does that mean? Right? Where is the truth in that perception? Right? Everyone has a perception. Everyone has an object, but what is the object independent of everyone's perceptions? What does that mean? Where can I find that, right? So emptiness of parts question: what about the raw data itself? Is it really there, or does the same process of mental projection apply the data to itself? Is raw data itself a projection? Yes, it is. Different beings perceive the same data in different ways. So this is what we talked about before, of course, is that you can keep unpacking, is that the parts of an object themselves can become a label when you look for them. So if I have the label black from my glasses like this is a collection, my glasses holder here for my reading glasses. It's a whole bunch of different qualities, has a concept on it or a label that I'm posing it, that in order that I use, it appears a certain way for my self projects. It's a thing for my glasses. But let's say it's hard, it's plastic, it's kind of like a rectangle, it's curved, it's cold, and it's black. But any of these parts themselves are a label. If I say, well, what does it mean to be like black? What is plastic? What is a rectangle? These things themselves are concepts that are labels imputed on a base. So it's almost like an infinite regress that you can end up having. You keep looking for sort of the final object or the final quality that exists, and all you get is more and more concepts, more and more labels, right? So this is in Madhyamika. They say there's a difference between something not existing and something where something I can't find. So it's not a question of, it's just a question of an identity that we're looking for. It's not that it's not there, it's that I can't find it, right? It's like, again, it's almost like an infinite regress. And that's why there's a great line, I think it's in On Certainty, where Wittgenstein says, explanations come to an end somewhere. Like there's a certain point where just almost as a convention, we go, okay, we're stopping there, right? or just like he says, it's almost like digging. There's a certain point when you're digging that you stop. You don't want to dig all the way through the earth, right? When you're trying to find something. And it's a matter of conventions. Like the bedrock is just conventions. It's just how we agree to think and talk about something. Okay, two kinds of emptiness here. Again, the lack of self-existence or self-nature of you as a whole, independent of your projections, and lack of self-existence, self-nature of your parts, independent upon your projections. So again, the two kinds of emptiness. Let's say, taking me as an example, it's the lack of self-existence of me as sort of a totality, or lack of self-existence of all the individual parts of me, sort of as a collective. Both of these things are empty. Two little things here, the emptiness of the body. Of course, the body itself, we can divide into parts. It's just a label on a base. I remember in a class we talked about bioethics. It was a huge thing. It's years ago now, but just what does it mean to be human? Like, let's say now, and we can see this now with the whole transhumanist movement and whatever, and just with modern technology, AI, where do I stop and where does something new begin? Where does my mind end? Where does something that's not my mind or something new begin? Where does my body, where are these boundaries? It's very ambiguous. Like, let's say, I get in a car accident, it's like the bionic man. They have to replace all these things in my body with new sort of synthetic materials or new organs or whatever. Like, even, you have all these incredible things where you can get implants to hear now. If let's say you've been hearing impaired or deaf, you have, they can replace whole parts of your different organs, have things in there, this and that. Well, where am I now? Like, let's say if they start taking out things from my body, how much of the real me is left? Does it even make sense to say that? What's my real body? Well, the new stuff that's been put in, all the synthetic or computer stuff that's being put into myself, I see as me. In the same way, people like Wittgenstein, famous philosopher Merleau-Ponty, always said, like, blind person with a cane, a white cane, that's part of their body. They see with the tip of the stick by hitting it and hearing and mapping out their environment. When you get in the car and driving, your body now is your car. The car's, that's why it's that thinker, famous it's just slipped my mind now. I studied him in school. He came up with the idea of a global village. Okay, Marshall McLuhan. He's got great stuff on this. And he always said the famous thing that you wear your car, right? Like your car is like your clothes. Because, like I say, when you're parallel parking, your mind is at the bumpers of your car. Like I've got in my Subaru, well, like everyone has now, a little camera that shows out the back bumper. And that's my vision. It's not just my eyes. It's right at the back bumper where the camera is. When you get hit or almost hit with your car, like, oh, it was almost, this guy came too close. Your whole body, it's like that almost touched my body by touching the car. So where is your body? Where are you? Where's the self? These are just projections, right? So even with the mind, what is it? Where is the mind? We think of all the different delusions, virtuous mental factors, omnipresent mental factors, your five skandhas. Where's your mind? Is it the discrimination? Is it the feeling? All these things. It's all those things and none of those things. Like what you'll see when we study Mahamudra is all the mind is the label of mind imputed on it, on basically a stream, an experiential stream. It's like the movie of your life that's going. That stream of experience we call our mind. But when I look for mind, where is the mind? What is the mind? What are all those like little divided pieces, like 64 minds in this finger stamp? Each one of those is a mind. Well, what's common to all of them? Where's the real mind? It's changing all the time, right? It's all interdependent. And this is, a big thing. It's a huge thing. Wittgenstein saw it when you get from his early work with the Tractatus to all the stuff he did in the 1930s, the philosophical grammar, philosophical Marx, and something. A big thing he saw, he used to think that there were sort of objects in the world that your mind would know, that basically they would be set up sort of tautologies or analytic statements would reflect these little objects kind of like a mirror, like a representation of them. But what he said, I don't want to get too much of philosophy here, but what he said, what was interesting is that it's easy to talk that way, where your mind through language is taking pictures of objects when it's just things like this, objects in the world or things like that, where, language is what's called picture theory. It's just like a reflection or picturing an object independent of your mind. But where Wittgenstein had problems was relative objects or things in relationship to one another. A big thing he had was color, is that colors only make sense interdependently by having a whole spectrum. So, when you're studying color, white only makes sense if it's not black, not purple, not green, not blue. So one color implies all of them. To see one color, so then it's not an object in and of itself. It's not inherently existing. It's in a relationship. Well, then I can't talk about my mind representing that, like mirroring that as just a simple object. Like blue, there's a blue object out there, like blueness in itself that I see directly, and then I build up sort of a color spectrum from that. Blue only makes sense along a continuum of other colors. So in other words, and the same things like that with the mind. Mind itself is in a relationship with all the other little parts of mind. So what do I call myself? I myself is just a label. I'm just a name, Matthew. What is my mind? It's just when I label it mind, I collect it together. Like Sartre would say, you've got a reflective conscious, pre-reflective conscious, and a reflective conscious. Ego is something that's created just like we create objects. The mind is something created just like we create objects. Now, there's this infinite regress of the mind creating the mind, right? So this is where, to sort of finish up here, this idea that you get in Madhyamika philosophy, which is what we call simple and examined reality. All objects in the world can be established as existing through that reasonable perception that thinks of them in certain ways without analyzing their ultimate nature. This is how we normally think of things. We just let them be. Things do function fine, and even Buddhas see unexamined world of things that exist out there. But if you look for something, you'll never find anything except you'll never find anything except something new you're thinking of in a certain way. Okay, so basically this is a big thing that I've always found just great. Again, what we're left with is just worldly conventions. We're just left with simple, unexamined worldly life. So Chandrakirti, there's a thing in his might be Guided the Middle Way where he says, from a Prasangika or middle way consequentialist point of view, our philosophy has to be agreeable or make sense, not just for scholars in the Buddhist monastic universities, but for everyday people, the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, right? In other words, things work. Things are exactly how we think and talk about them, right? The key is we can't find what they really are. They're just worldly conventions. If we leave them almost in a Zen way or a Wittgensteinian way, we would just allow things to exist on the surface as impermanent things, just the way we think and talk about them in order to use them, they're fine. When we start trying to find out what's really real with them, what's truly true about them, where their kernel of truth is, you see, you never get anywhere. You just start digging more and more and finding more concepts, more labels, more bases, more talk, more ideas. But the point is that you never find it. Again, it's the question. It's like, we're not saying things don't exist at all. We're saying that we can't find their true nature. So what you're left with, what I like, is this idea there's no final ultimate raw data or raw essence or nature of things. I like what Geshe said, you draw a blank. In other words, like that blankness of not finding something, not finding its nature is emptiness. Like that, almost like Zen, I don't know part. Like that's when we start to see it. It's precisely that blankness that allows everything to have a changeable nature, that it works, that I'm able to do things with it, that I'm able to create with it, right? Yeah, so just finish on this here. There's a little thing about feeling indiscrimination here, that these are the two aggregates that are caused. I've talked about this before, all of samsara, that there are diluted aggregates, that we always see things as something, not that that's a problem, but we take our judgments for being real, and then feelings, we always feel good or feel bad or don't feel anything, sort of neutral feeling about things. These two things, in the diluted way that we have them, of having preferences and taking our judgments to be real, independent of our mind, are what causing samsara. So the whole analysis we've just been talking about this last half hour is to overcome that particular wrong view. Okay, 3 kinds of compassion here, and we can finish this up. 1, compassion that focuses on just plain conventionality, or the lowest form of compassion. This doesn't focus on a reason for people's suffering. It doesn't get at the root of the problems. In other words, this is just everyday compassion we normally have, which is we don't want people to suffer. We want to be kind. We want to be helpful. We'll feel bad if someone's suffering. We want to be of service. This is great, but on one level, spiritually, it's fairly superficial because it doesn't get at the root of why people are suffering in the first place. Number 2, compassion that focuses on people's parts. In other words, we see people constantly changing. Therefore, the concept is what that makes them is what's projected onto those parts. This compassion understands the person's need to change their projections and to stop suffering. So a sort of deeper form of compassion is one that's based on impermanence, or seeing things as changing, or seeing things as a project. Once we start thinking in that way in life, when we, like that's our worldview or view, our compassion based on that starts to see the conventional nature, changing nature, and empty nature of things. We start to see that people are suffering according to their minds, that they're suffering according to their projections, and the fact that they don't see that they're creating reality a certain way through their karma. And so, of course, this is once we see this or help them see this, this is sort of their way out in the path of liberation. But the highest one is the compassion. In other words, that's kind of like the conventional reality part of compassion. And this is the ultimate reality of compassion. Number 3, the compassion focuses, quote unquote, on nothing. No person out there independent of your projections, nothing apart from projections. Highest form of compassion because it teaches people karma. So a lot of ways, the highest form is to see the emptiness of everything, the blankness of everything, that kind of compassion. This is a compassion that doesn't have any codependency or countertransference psychoanalytically. You don't have an agenda with people. Basically, on that level, that kind of compassion sees that the people I'm interacting with, that I feel compassion for, are products of my own mind, products of my own karma, like my own children. Just like I'm a product of my own karma, this whole sort of divine play is my responsibility. So this is kind of like a Levinasian approach where I just have this service and duty to the other on an ethical level, this great, great compassion. This is the real compassion that flips over to great compassion in LamRim practice, in the equalizing, exchanging self with others teachings. Actually, it's a 7-fold cause and effect. So how to develop bodhicitta. So regular compassion, once I start meditating on emptiness with it, you can think about it becoming great compassion, then what they call superior intention, which leads to bodhicitta. If I start to see that people I feel compassion with, it's not just they're suffering because of their own karma and their own projects and the way that they're creating reality kind of conventionally, but on an ultimate conventional form level for myself, I see that the people themselves are a product of my karma, right? Just like I'm a product of my karma. And so I'm responsible for the world in the same ways I'm responsible for myself, because myself and others are part of my world. First and foremost, my world is structured according to containing other people that I'm responsible for ethically, because I am who I am in and through these other people. So that's a greater compassion, not just people, but animals and all sentient beings. So I've gone from a small compassion, just people, I like people in my day-to-day life, to having compassion for all sentient beings. And then this comes to superior intention. If everyone's suffering, I love them, I want them to be happy, but I see that everyone is suffering, that this is the obstacle for them being happy, is their suffering's in the way, and that suffering has to be removed. Who can remove that suffering? Who's going to do it? Well, they don't even know that they're suffering, so technically they have to remove their own suffering, but they need some help because they don't even know they're suffering at first. They need a bit of guidance or someone to be there to help them make that switch in their own minds. Who's going to do this? Well, in the end, if this is my projection as a whole, my world, my movie, it can only be me that stands up for this. I have to have superior intention. And having superior intention, then this goes, the next step is bodhicitta. How can I really do this? I can only do this by getting enlightened, becoming a Buddha, and then seeing how karma and emptiness work, and being in a position where almost on an immortal level, I can teach this to all beings everywhere, always at once, the same thing, and enlighten everyone else that way by giving them the tools to enlighten themselves. By doing that, that's what enlightenment is. So this is where you can see, just starting with a little bit of meditation, emptiness, and how karma and projections work, how labels and bases work. The development of my own wisdom leads to this incredible sort of ethical product of the end of the enlightenment and liberation of all beings, and seeing everything as bliss. Okay, there we go. So that how about we end the class on, or course, on that note of generating bodhicitta, which is the only reason we're doing this stuff in the first place. This isn't just sort of a YouTube video philosophy class just as a form of entertainment. This is serious. This is something we should aspire to. So let's dedicate all this good merit and energy for the blessings of all holy beings, the truth of karma, causes and their effects, labels and bases, and so forth. The power of a pure superior intention, again, our superior intention that we want to get enlightened for the welfare of all sentient beings, and all of our dharma wishes be fulfilled, and all sentient beings reach enlightenment. Great, thank you for coming.